I started doing with the show is trying to have this intro outro thing, but I think it's better just to like talk. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not Joe Rogan, but I think people will still watch. But Fresca's, do you remember the cans used to look like very similar to like Bud Light or Busch Light or something cans? They had a very beer-esque look to them because I remember, I'm talking about like late 80s, early 90s. I remember drinking them as a kid and feeling
like you're drinking a beer.
Yeah.
Feeling
like,
pretty cool.
I would feel, yeah. It was like that was the appeal to me.
That was one of the first drinks to come out. There was like a diet drink back in the
Fresca?
60s. Yeah, like 65, 66.
Wasn't that the thing with Tab though?
Tab was the first and Fresca was like the second.
So Tab was like a cola.
Yeah.
The first cola that was. I think what's also interesting about soda is that it's like the one thing, not the one thing. It's one of the high end, like top 3 where they're like, this is something you shouldn't put in your body on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yet they were all created as elixirs, like in drugstores.
Yeah.
Like they were cure-alls, and now they're like, hey, don't put soda in your body.
Hey, when these things first came out, when low-calorie drinks first came out, God knows what was in those things, because cyclamates and it's refined over the years. Still, it's questionable what's in them. I don't trust them.
I would think that
I don't drink them usually.
The small amount of cocaine that they used to put in Coca-Cola was probably still better for you than whatever they put in these things now, right?
Probably true.
It's probably like, oh, there's actually a medicinal reason for that, but this isn't, because that's what Ritalin and Adderall were, and like everybody in the 80s was on that.
Yeah. Still a bunch are.
I know. I was 5 years old when they put me on Ritalin.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's probably why I am the way I am. It's like, oh, you're developing still? Let's put you on cocaine. Having trouble concentrating? Let's get you really hyped up. But it mellows me out. Same reason like nowadays coffee will calm me down.
Really?
People really are astounded at the amount of coffee I drink. And they're like, oh, you're going to be all over the place. But if I don't drink that coffee, I am all over the place.
Really? Can you sleep on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I get drowsy if I go past the threshold on it.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced a situation or seen someone drink themselves sober?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Like on float trips? I remember doing that on float trips. Where you're drinking all day in the sun.
And it just has no effect anymore.
It has no effect. And to the point where you're done with the float trip. I don't know if you're exerting whatever energy, but like 20 beers in, and then you're like ready to grill and cook dinner. And I don't know. That's a phenomenon that's exclusive to float trips.
Yeah, no kidding. I do a lot of float trips still.
Yeah.
And I might do one tomorrow. In fact, they're doing a cleanup on the Merrimack, and I got invited to meet at 10 a.m.
Okay.
A little stretch of river. We have a cabin out there, and from Pacific down to Allenton. So I've done it a few years. And
you kayak or canoe or?
I have both, but I bring a canoe and we'll clean it. But there's not much to clean up. It's because every time I go out there, I usually pick up stuff. So
yeah,
there's not a whole lot. But when you get a bunch of guys together, you can sometimes lift up a big old tire or something that couldn't get out normally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool thing to do.
You ever noodle in those rivers?
We just get a noodle and float down?
No, noodling.
Oh, noodling for catfish.
Like with catfish.
No.
That's the one type of fishing I won't do. We're big. My son and I are both sons are avid fishers.
Well, my neighbors out there, they limb line and trot line.
I would do that. There's no danger in that.
A few years ago, they caught a 68-pound catfish right near our cabin.
Sheesh.
Which we're right by Six Flags out there. And,
the
year before we bought the cabin, somebody caught one that was 101 pounds.
In that
Merrimack.
In the Merrimack.
Yeah, the Merrimack.
Okay, so that's a significant river basin. It's not like a creek.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Merrimack, if you look at Algonquin Indian language, it came from the word Merrimackwa, which means catfish. So what the Indians meant ugly fish.
So local community catfish college right up here.
Yeah, exactly.
I attended after I couldn't hack it at University of Tampa. I went to Catfish College. That's pretty interesting. There was a class that I took in middle school, I think it was, in the gifted program. You got to choose your curriculum. And so one full semester I studied Native American history. But I don't ever remember learning translations. It was more like...
Yeah, well, most people don't know. Most people don't know what the word Missouri means in Indian language.
Tell us.
It means people of the canoe.
Okay. Now that you said that, I recalled it, but I hadn't.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But, I probably knew that from like a field trip to Cahokia Mounds or something and just had compartmentalized it somewhere else.
Yeah, I usually,
you said it.
whenever I talk to people, nobody from Missouri knows that. But, we have so many great rivers. It makes sense. The Missouri Indians, it was an actual tribe called the Missouri Indians, and they were big canoers. So that's what their dugout canoes, So,
well, we're kind of we are an island, technically, with the Missouri and the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So if you think about it in the terms of like before there was maps, it's not like they were looking at, settlers weren't looking at these maps. So it probably very much felt like an island. Like these were an island people in the Midwest.
Yeah, there's so many spring-fed rivers in Missouri. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's so many. We're doing a trip. My son-in-law runs Big Muddy Adventures. And, they do trips on the Missouri and Mississippi rivers.
Okay.
So we're doing a trip September 21st. We're going from St. Louis to Cape Girardeau, and just 2 nights on the river.
How many miles is that?
I think it's like 100 miles. I don't know how we're going to do it in 2 days, but I guess it's
I don't know.
3 days.
My friends let me organize a float trip one year, and it was 22 miles. And this was when we were in our 20s. So every bank on the river was a chance to stop and shotgun a beer.
Right.
So we get back at like 10 a.m. on the next day, and we had to be at the pickup point at whatever time, 6 or 7 p.m. 10 a.m. we're on the river. And we run into a guy who's fishing, and we're like, hey, how far, have we come, or do you know where we're at? We'd gone 6 miles the first day. And so everybody's like hauling ass in their canoe the second day, just basically nonstop, just to get to where we need to get.
I've been there where you just lollygag too much.
Yeah.
And, the last day, and then usually the last day, there's always a headwind.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it even harder. That's just the way it goes.
I like taking my time out in nature, though. I've always connected really well with nature, and it's very therapeutic.
It truly is.
I like being out there.
Yep.
Especially in today's world when you're always like, social media to me is the demise of communication.
Well,
which is
even texting. I mean, it happens all the time. People text, and then you don't get all the details, and it's like, just call them up. You'll have a short conversation. You'll get much more
3
information.
minutes.
It won't take that long. It happened just the other day. Some messages were mixed up, and it's like all confused. It's like, just call them up. But anyway, nobody does. Everybody just my
people
kids
are nervous to call. Like even people my age have forgotten that I grew up with a landline where I'm going around the corner and closing the basement door so I could talk to my 6th grade girlfriend or whatever it is, right? And it's like all of a sudden people my age have gotten into this mode too where it's I don't know if it's habitual, and that's what we've done, where they're nervous. But like when I was previously single, before this last time being single, I would be like, oh, hey, can I call you? To this woman I'd met, and they were like, why would you call me? I'm like, what?
That's so weird. Yeah.
You just go straight from messaging
Never
for a
thought
month,
about
and then you just go meet them at a coffee house?
Yeah.
I'd be nervous.
Yeah, you can learn so much more by talking to somebody, and and the inflection of their voice, and just mannerisms and so forth. But it's a new world out there.
There's some inflections in the voice that I probably wouldn't want to be a part of in person. And had I known that that's how they talked,
yeah,
that upward inflection where they're on, it's like it's a question, like everything's a question.
Valley Girl talk.
Yeah, Valley Girl. My aunt's nickname was Valley Girl in high school because of how she used to talk and dress. Probably it was very much like the cuffed gloves and the Madonna-esque look.
Yeah,
and I grew up with my grandparents, so like everything. I was always like, as a young kid, I was already into like Prince and on the other side like U2 and all these bands that guys my age were not even in the realm of. So I would have like Michael Jackson cassette tape and Lion King, like normal for my age in that range, and then like Prince, James Brown, and I was always a huge fan of Bill Withers. Like ever since I was a little kid, Bill Withers was one of my favorite artists.
Smart.
Yeah. I saw Al Green at the Family Arena for my 40th birthday.
Wow.
Like that was my
I saw Al Green in a little place at Beverly Hills Supper Club in Kentucky. It was like a nightclub. And it was one of the finest shows. We had a full band. It was
like super intimate kind of.
1975 it would have been. It was just so amazing. It was just really just a great show. But same place, Beverly Hills Supper Club, burned down and 250 people died in the same room. Happened in 1977.
How were they all trapped inside? What was that situation?
The curtains caught on fire and they couldn't get out.
Really?
And I remember I was driving home from Denver the night that I pulled into my girlfriend's, at that time, her driveway at 1 o'clock in the morning, and her TV, the parents' TV was on. And I heard I said, something big happened. And sure enough, we walked in and they said, yeah, the Beverly Hills Supper Club, which was a big venue across the river from Cincinnati. But they said, the Beverly Hills Supper Club burned down. And I was like, who performed? And they said, it was John Davidson. And I said, well, good. Nobody I know would have been there because he was some
different genre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was relieved right away.
Thank goodness. That's a funny way to look at a tragic situation. It's not too soon though. At least you waited this long to talk about that. I had you said that 30 years ago out loud.
Yeah,
I
would
would
have been
like, what
pilloried.
a jerk. Yeah, nobody I knew. You're into music. Where did so I've always loved music but never played. How did you kind of get into that space?
Well, people my age, I just turned 70 years old. So people my age, when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, everybody wanted to get a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a few years after that, but I had an older brother, an older sister. So when I was 6 years old, I was buying 45s, buying records.
Okay.
And the first record I ever bought was Sam Cooke. It's another Saturday night and I ain't got nobody.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And I bought records all the time. And
Sam Cooke was like a pop artist before there was pop artists almost.
yeah, he was a good songwriter.
Yeah.
And he died tragically, though. He got killed by a prostitute, I think is what happened. But anyway, so yeah, it's like, then I begged for a guitar. I finally got a guitar, a real crappy guitar. And I started playing when I was 12 years old and had a little band when I was in 7th grade. And we played... everything from, what did we play? Painted Black by the Stones.
Oh, great song.
And we played...
it was made popular by that. I think people forgot about that. And it was on Departed, I think that was on there.
Yeah.
I see a red door and I want it painted black. It's weird how the teenage angst comes out because like when I started listening to Aerosmith and like the Stones and all this stuff, Hendrix, I was big on that in high school. I had a modality. Dave Matthews was always popular. And I remember that my aunt had seen my CD case because, we had these big books of CD cases. And based on my music choices, she questioned if I was smoking pot or not. It's just like, it was like, there's no way you're going from Aerosmith and Tom Petty to this stuff and you're not. Like, how much weed do you smoke?
And she probably hit the nail on the head, didn't she?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of those songs you can't. Who listens to the original full version of Stairway to Heaven without some relaxation medication? That's a long ass song.
Very true. But yeah, so I play guitar intermittently, and I just kind of dabbled with it. Then I fell off a 3-story building when I was a sophomore in high school, and I hadn't played guitar for a few 6 months or so before that, but I was laid up for a while, so I got an acoustic guitar, and that's when James Taylor came out, and I started getting into acoustic stuff. And then
wait, before you move on to that part, you fell off a 3-story building? That's typically not a casual like.
Well, when I was a sophomore in high school, I went to a Jesuit high school, and there, right before the end of the year, we had somebody's brother was moving out of an apartment. And we said, hey, we'll take it over. So we had an apartment when I was a sophomore, and just a place to go party in.
Yeah. And
it was in this part of town in Cincinnati that was, like the Haight-Ashbury of Cincinnati. It was right by University of Cincinnati, and it was like this area where all the hippies were. Mm-hmm. And so we had this apartment, and we had the first floor. Sophomores had the first floor, juniors had the second floor, seniors had the third floor. And it was a row house. It was 3 buildings all attached in the front. Okay. And the first night we went there, we rented the apartment earlier that, I think it was like a couple of days before that. And we had our little first floor room. We're like, wow, this is great. And the bathroom was off to the side. And the bathroom was just a dilapidated building. And I think our rent was $30 a month or something. So we, 3 guys, we could all chip in and afford it. So we brought our girlfriends there the first night we were going to use it. And somebody was in our room. One of the seniors was in our room with a girlfriend. So they said, hey, go upstairs, go to the 3rd floor. Yeah. So I went to the 3rd floor, and I wasn't familiar with the building, and I didn't realize, but it's a row house. And so in the back, there were alleys. So the front was 3 buildings connected, but in the back had little alleys. Okay. So I had to go to the bathroom. We were drinking beer, and they said, well, the bathroom's on the 1st floor. So I was like, I'll just go out on the roof. So I went out on the roof, and I was going to step away from the edge of the building and I walked right into an alley. So it was real dark.
Oh.
So I just saw this brick wall in front of me. I was like, oh, God, no. It was a long way down. I remember thinking a lot of thoughts on the way down. Anyway, I fell down and landed. I don't even know what I landed on, but I cut all my tendons in my left foot. All my toes were like hanging back. And then I was bleeding profusely because my tendons were cut and fractured my ankles and my heels. And I was holding my left leg and like make a tourniquet, and I was yelling, help. And I had my first buddy that came out I remember taking my legs off my tourniquet to go, look out, go back. Because he almost fell on top of me because it was so dark. And then my friends came down and tried to carry me, and it was a big mayhem. And they kept dropping me. And then there was this guy in our neighborhood that was much older than us. That drove around in a 1959 ambulance, a Cadillac ambulance.
Okay.
And he was cruising the strip that night. They flagged him down. His name was Ed Hoff, and he was with a good friend of mine, was in the front seat with him. But Ed Hoff pulled over, and he was like 6'5". He picked me up like a baby, threw me in the back of his ambulance. As he backed up, he was backing up to get away. My girlfriend was going, EJ, and he backed up and hit her, knocked her down, drove away. But anyway, so I was laid up for a while, and I had.
It seems like a gruesome scene, but the way you describe it is almost like a cartoon.
Yeah, well,
the ambulance backs up, knocks your girlfriend over.
It was
you fall straight down.
But because it happened on this, this hippie drag strip that was where all the, if you wanted to buy marijuana in those days or any kind of drug, you would go up and walk that strip. And not that we did, but But that's the way it was. But so this radio station in Cincinnati, WEBN, which is like in St. Louis, the Casey equivalent. It was
rock and roll. The
hip FM station. Some announcer there said, somebody was doing acid and thought they could fly and went off a building on Calhoun Street. Yeah. So that was the legacy. I kind of in Cincinnati, people go, "You're the guy that did acid." And thought that's like I didn't think I could fly. I just walked into an alley. Yeah, God damn it. So anyway, I had girlfriends that their parents were like, "Is that the guy that did acid?" I'm like, no. So anyway, I still talk to people today that I heard about that guy that could fly. It's like, so they put it on the radio, I guess, a few times.
That's pretty incredible, though. That's kind of a milestone that you.
So I got an imprint. Thrown out of the high school I was going to because of that. I ruined the apartment for everybody. But then junior year, I went to a different Catholic high school, parochial school, and we got another apartment. So I always had an apartment. We always had a place. And, junior year, we had an apartment with water beds and black light posters. And, it was $35 a month. And
so rent had gone up.
It was just a roach-infested place. It was a dump, but it was a place for us all to go. So it was.
Well, especially when you're that age, like your freedom is like your freedom. There's no concern about like, oh, I could wish I had a newer stove. Like you're probably not cooking or doing anything anyway. Yeah.
But this is a funny story about that place. Junior year, we had, we had ounces of marijuana that guys were selling or doing whatever with, and. It was in a really bad neighborhood, and sometimes these ounces would disappear. I'm like, what the hell? Did you steal this? What happened to it? And we were walking one night, and we walked by a group of guys, and it was a black neighborhood, and we walked by a group of guys, and I heard one of these guys. I was in the tail end. I heard one of the black guys as we passed him. I heard him say, "They go to boys with a waterbed." And I was like, did you hear that? This guy said we go to the boys with a waterbed. How the hell do they know we have a waterbed? So we figured out that they were jumping on a roof and coming in, because we were on a third story of this place. They were jumping on the roof and coming in these windows and stealing our shit. So anyway,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, but it's hard to even imagine like we were in these neighborhoods that we had a bunch of white guys had no business being in, but we never had any trouble really.
Most people don't, and I think that's a pretty common misconception too. Is like because my first apartment was Sierra Vista off Bell Fountain, and there was like 3 of us in the whole probably vicinity, white guys.
Yeah,
never had any trouble because I think that when people, like there was a guy that lived below us, Cedric, and whenever he was barbecuing or whenever I was barbecuing, he'd call me up and call him down, whatever, we'd hang out, and I think that the stigma that mixed part gets is that. People are like people, and when you're genuine, nobody really cares. Like I never really
exactly,
but that was weird about it, and I just always had a good time.
Cincinnati was segregated too, I guess in its own way. But to get to any neighborhood, you had to go through black parts of town. And when I was coming up, same as you, I always lived in apartments I could afford, which were
Right.
bad parts of town. I never had any trouble. But when I moved to St. Louis, I'll never forget, I moved here to work with cable company. I ended up with Charter Communications.
Okay.
It was CenCom Cable. And when I first moved here, people said, don't go north of Del Mar. And I was like, what are you talking about? And it was like, well, that's where all the black people are. Like, don't go north of Del Mar. And I was like, I never heard of a line of demarcation like that ever in my life.
St. Louis is one of the most segregated places in general, but beyond race. It's really just about, like, I always call it the 5 boroughs. So it's not even really a racial division so much as it is like, and you know this to be true, I'm sure too, because of the area we're in now. I live near where you're at, but it's always like 3rd and 4th generation. Like, people move 5 to 10 miles from their parents, and that's like the typical thing. I mean, I don't know how many people I've met in my districts, because I started in Hazelwood, then Parkway, and then my eldest son was CBC, and now my youngest is Kirkwood. And everybody's like, oh yeah, like my grandparents were Kirkwood people.
Yeah.
It's like 3rd, 4th generation.
It's kind of great, really. It's very colloquial.
Yeah.
But when Charter Communications, it was cable.
Was it always Charter?
It was CenCom. And
Okay.
then it became Crown Cable.
Okay.
CenCom got bought.
So CenCom, when you first came.
Yeah, it was CenCom. And the guys that started Charter then owned CenCom. They sold it to Hallmark. Hallmark wanted to get in the cable business. Hallmark, greetings. So Hallmark bought it, and they called it Crown Cable, as in the Hallmark crown, their symbol. And then cable became regulated, and
that's kind of an interesting crossover to, like,
yeah, well,
we're gonna do greeting cards, but also
they just wanted to get into more.
I guess it's communications.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But we became regulated because cable was kind of doing a little bit of pillaging as far as raising rates and so forth. So Congress regulated cable, and Hallmark was like, we can't just raise the rates when we want to. So Hallmark says we went out. So Hallmark sold it back to the guys that started CenCom, and they started Charter and bought it back for less than they sold it to them. Less than they sold it to them for. So, but anyway,
they were riding high back then, right? I mean, Hallmark was not hurting. There used to be brick and mortar Hallmark, like standalones. Every mall had one.
Yeah, but Charter was. I mean, Hallmark was used to printing a card for 3 cents and charging $5 for it, and the margins just weren't good enough for cable because it was anyway. But the point I was going to make was when Charter, we were a cable company, and then we got into telephone, and we launched telephone.
Right.
And we launched telephone back when AT&T was charging a lot for long distance. We launched telephone for $30 and unlimited long distance calling included in that. So we were going door to door selling.
What year was that roundabout?
Probably 2000, 2001 or so.
Oh, wow.
So long distance, I guess, was still what wasn't as much as an issue. Long distance, back when I was coming up was, when I first moved to St. Louis, we were spending $250 a month just calling Cincinnati.
Yeah.
A few times a month. It's ridiculous. Now it's unlimited. But we had unlimited long distance, and we had going door to door. And it was selling real well. But we went in South County, and people were saying, I don't need long distance. I never use long distance because my mom lives over here. My brother lives across the street. And so I had never run into that before. Like, you don't know anybody that you call long distance?
Yeah.
And that was like, to your point, it was everybody was
5 miles from where they grew up.
Yeah.
But what about, so we went back sophomore, junior year, and then we were talking about the music. So you got into music.
Yeah, so I'd really,
that early on, just as something to do.
I was just playing by myself, and I never had the confidence. I'm always blown away by my daughters. They're both very, very confident, and Nikki's confidence to pursue comedy, because I never thought I was never good enough to play out in public. And then finally, I went through a breakup when I was about 22, and I just sat and played music a lot and just really got immersed in it. And then I just thought one day, God damn, I'm going to go up, just audition somewhere and see if I can get a gig. And I went in this bar, and they said, yeah, we'll hire you. You're great. We'll hire you. And I was like, really? I was like, okay, give me 6 weeks to get some equipment together and I'll figure it out. So then I started playing, and I started getting gigs all over, and I ended up in a duo and with a pretty great guitar player from Cincinnati, Keith Kennedy. And he was kind of a jazz fusion guy, and he used to work the door when I played. Yeah. And his band broke up, and he came to me one day and said, hey man, can I play with you? And I'm like, you want to play with me? I just never had that much confidence. So anyway, but great guitar players. We had a duo for a few years, and we played, sometimes 5-6 nights a week. And so
you were really hustling.
well, I made a good living at it. I was having fun and
Yeah.
just hanging out and on the scene. But I never, once again, didn't have the confidence to think, man, I can make a living at this. It was fun when I was in my 20s. I had the days off and I was hanging out and just drinking a lot of beer and whatever.
Right.
And then it got to the point where hey, I got to get a real job. So I went and applied for a cable company and got a job, selling cable. I knew cable was going to be an explosive industry.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started out when Warner MX was Warner Communications in Cincinnati. They had about 20,000 customers when I joined, and I got a job selling cable door to door. And it was so
people were still receptive to door then.
Oh yeah, but exactly.
Don't show up now,
as opposed to now. But the cable companies still do it. They still do it very successfully.
I've seen them. The kids around my neighborhood have Segways though.
Really?
Like handleless Segways. So I guess that's a hoverboard. I don't know. It's
yeah.
not quite a hoverboard either. It's got like a bike seat on it.
Wow.
Have you seen these?
No.
They're going around. They're on these little hoverboards with bike seats, and that's how they go door to door. But they did that during the pandemic too, because my physician. I had heart surgery when I was a kid, and so my physician was like, "Hey, let's wait a minute before you get vaccinated, because right now the side effects are X, Y, Z." And so I remember there was a young man that came to my door, early 20s probably, and was like, "Hey, we just noticed that you weren't vaccinated yet. Did you need help getting to your phizician's office?"
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Well, one, that's really scary that you knew that and then sent this kid to my door." But two, I was like, "No, I can get there. I'm just waiting on some preliminary tests about my heart." And that was odd to me. But yeah, and I see him from time to time now scooting around the neighborhood.
What a good way to go.
On these little hovercrafts.
But yeah, so selling cable door to door, there were times when they were still building the system. So you had to go on doors that were already knocked on 3 or 4 times, and it was kind of difficult. But then they'd introduce new market. Everybody we used to have to wear ties. We used to call them tie pullers, because they would pull, like, hell yes, I want it. They'd pull your tie and grab you. And you go out and make, there were sales reps in 1982 or 1983 making $100,000 a year.
Really?
Selling cable door to door.
And $100,000 a year then is like $250 now.
It was
at least
unbelievable.
No, more than that probably.
And you could go out and make as much money as you wanted to. But unfortunately, I was promoted like 3 or 4 months in. I got promoted to supervisor, so I never made the big money. But I got promoted, and I got promoted to manager, then director of sales, and I had like 127 door-to-door sales reps at one time in Cincinnati going door to door.
You had to watch them make more money than you?
Yeah. But we had a blast. I mean, it was really a lot of fun. It was fun to see everybody being successful. And we had a mandate to hire, we had a franchise with the Cincinnati, so we had a mandate to replicate the percentage of population in the city. So we had to hire, 37% black, because that was what the city was. Mm-hmm. And we had the whole Cincinnati DMA, the whole greater Cincinnati area was our franchise. But it was interesting because we hired as many people as we could, but we never did reach that mandate. But we had so many diverse people in that sales force. Yeah. And we, like, to your point, everybody was together and just having a great time. And I remember thinking, like, this is going to be so good for the city to have, because we were having parties and everybody's going together, and I had all kinds of new friends, and then it didn't really happen that way, because Cincinnati had race riots back in the 90s that made national news. Mm-hmm. And it's still, but I really remember thinking, like, this is really.
But your circle was diverse and fun, and you got to experience that.
But we hired all kinds of people that we had 500 employees at the company, and it was fun to see the diversity. But it didn't really work. In the long run. Maybe it helped a little bit. Might have been worse if it didn't. Yeah,
I feel like that the times in the 90s, and part of it was because I was still pretty young in the 90s, right? Like, I wasn't like running around on my own driving cars or anything. But there was a lot more integration in television and movies than I think people remember, because we talk about now how there's like, it's never been as diverse. I remember being pretty diverse, but the outward segregation was certainly more prevalent. Like, it was almost like you just knew where not to go. Now it's like an underlying divisiveness. And back then I remember it being more like, you just understood certain things and that's what you did. But it is cool to see people are more like accepting in certain ways, but I think we also, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to get too political about it, but it's weird to me that we haven't come to a point where it's like the understanding of individuals as individuals across any board. We're not just talking about race. I'm talking about like just people in general. Like people still haven't understood like, oh yeah, this person might just be a good person, but they're this occupation, this race, this religion.
Well, it's a big question people ask, do you have any black friends? People ask me that, and I'm like, nobody I hang out with.
Yeah.
I wish I did. But, there used to have a few in Cincinnati, but nobody here I can think of, and whenever you hear, white people ask that question, usually it's like, I have black friends. And I'm like, oh, who are they? It's like, well, it's like, you like to think you do, but it's, and I don't know if you ask black people if they have white friends, if it's the same thing, but it's probably.
They don't. That's the thing. That's the reverse part of it. Yeah. It's like, but I grew up in a neighborhood where it was, very much predominantly black, and I could tell you how many white friends I have, but I can't tell you right otherwise. I can be like, I got like 5 white guys I hang out with. And it's pretty rare that I hang out with more than one of them at a time. It's just kind of where I grew up. But I think back to the music thing, you were talking about confidence, and you had mentioned that it was kind of maybe not spurred on, but coincided with that breakup. And there was a realization that I came to much later in life, just recently actually. My confidence came from shedding my ego when I stopped being concerned about other people. Like, would you say that was a similar experience for you? So it wasn't so much that I gained confidence. It was that I stopped needing the affirmation of others. Like when I started these shows and doing other things, I was like, and I used to do stand up, that's kind of where we had talked about this full circle thing where there was times when Nikki and I would be doing like a funny bone stand up and there'd be like 4 people in the crowd. And oftentimes you might be one of those people. And that was probably therapy for me though at that time. Like I was still very egotistical. I had a lot of defensive shells up, but that was very therapeutic to get out there and like self-deprecate and share my thing. Was there a therapeutic part to music for you? Like to get
I guess that's
things
probably a good way to look at it. I've never been a songwriter. Nikki always laughs about it. I've written one song. and it's a song about climate change, and I just lame. I know I could do it, and I've recently become a little more focused. So I'm going to try to really come up with some stuff. Yeah. But I just do other people's songs, but I do songs that I really care about. Now I can't do a song unless I really care about the lyrics. Okay. And I remember when I was first starting out and playing music, a buddy of mine I hadn't seen for a while came in to see me one night. He was like, Jesus, do you do anything that's like happy? All your songs are sad about, losing love. And I was like, God damn, you're right. Because it really dawned on, because I was just, projecting, I guess, the way my feelings were. So I started thinking about, I better get some up music in here.
I listen to a lot of melancholy music.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my thing too. And I'll work out to it, like I'll sit down and I'll put on
people love
Grandma's Hands and I'm like, bench pressing.
Well, it's like people love melancholy music. It's something cathartic about it, but you got to have some up songs in there too. Mm-hmm. Like I played last night, I sang a song, Stephen Stills, and I have a solo gig, and I just pull songs out of the air that I knew from long ago. But I played a song by Stephen Stills called 4 and 20. The last lyrics, the last part of the song, it ends like, and I find myself just wishing that my life would simply cease. You're playing in a bar, talking about somebody
ending it.
Once, it's not a good way to.
Yeah,
but
it's more dramatic than closing time.
I was laughing to myself.
Yeah. Hope everyone's having a good night tonight. Here comes another song about off and myself.
Yeah, we used to play that Johnny.
Let's raise our beer.
My band used to play that Johnny Cash song "Hurt,"
which was a 9 Inch Nails song.
Yeah, Trent.
First,
Trent Reznor is his name. I think the guy who wrote it.
Yeah, probably.
But we quickly learned you don't play that in bars. It's just too depressing.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's certain music really invokes a lot of emotion in people. That's what also intrigues me about your. Would you call it a hobby? Semi-profession?
Well,
you get paid to do it. So
during my professional career, I always kept my chops up. I always played and around the house, and never really played many gigs when the kids were coming up. But to this day, when the kids were coming up, it's like, oh, Dad, don't get the guitar out. No, So Nikki came to my gig last night and said, "Boy, it's nice that now you have to listen to me play guitar. You come to a gig."
Yeah.
Because in the old days, they could care less about it. But
my kids, I always thought my kids liked my jokes until I think it was literally last night too. My son was coming home. I asked him, my 9-year-old, and I was talking on the phone with someone, and I had made a dad joke, and I was like, they asked, the car speaker, or whatever. We're talking on that, and they're like, Tyson, do you like your dad's jokes? And he's like, not really. And I'm like, really? I thought me and you kind of had the same sense of humor. And he's like, well, sometimes I don't like when you sing songs out of nowhere because I do a lot of songs, and it'll just be like, it's natural, like a joyful thing.
How old's your son?
I'm 9 and a 20.
Yeah, well, that's the 9-year-old you're talking about, right?
Yeah, he's an eye roller at this point.
Well,
my 20-year-old really is like me now at this point. He's doing dad jokes all the time too. But it's like, I'll get up and I'll be like, like, Tyson, what do you want for breakfast? And he'll be like, make me some waffles, please. And so I thought we were like on the same wavelength. But
yeah, when you're alone, but when he's with his friends, come on.
I'm not cool anymore.
No.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I was driving Nikki when she was, pre-teen, I guess, to pick up some friends. And we were pulling up to one of her friends' houses. And she said, Dad, when my friends get in the car, don't try to be funny. It's like, don't even.
I don't even have to try, though. That's what's good.
No, but the funny thing was, don't try. Like, I never am funny. It's just don't try.
Right. They know how to knock the wind out of your sail, the kids do.
Oh, yeah. But, you take it with a grain of salt. But, yeah, so in my career then, I was at Charter Communications, and I was the VP of marketing for the St. Louis market. And I was involved with the Sheldon Concert Hall. I was like a friend of the Sheldon, this committee that we had. And the guy that was the director down there, he knew I played guitar. We just talked about it. He was a guitar player too. But he said, hey, we're doing a concert called Musicians with Real Jobs. If you'd like to play the Sheldon. I was like, hell yes, I'd love that. Was a dream to play the Sheldon.
That's funny.
It's my favorite. When I first moved to St. Louis, I'm like, oh, God, if I ever played here.
Musicians with Real Jobs.
Yeah, so there was a concert that they gave on a Thanksgiving Eve. And myself and like 4 or 5 other executives or people around town that had various jobs. So I got to do like a 20-minute set by myself, and the place was, pretty packed. And then I got a call to do a gig after that. It said, hey, would you be willing to play this fundraiser? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And then the fundraiser, I did a silent auction, said, hey, my band, or I'll play solo for, and the people paid like $1,800, for me to come to a party. Mm-hmm. So I got a friend of mine and said, then I just started playing out, and the guy asked me to play in a bar. So I started doing that. And before long I was playing again, but not a whole lot. So then when I kind of semi-retired, I thought, I'm going to just play music for a living. So I started playing retirement homes. So I play retirement homes during the week. And some weeks I have, 4 or 5 gigs. Some weeks I have 2. But I really, I play bars too with my band. I have a band called Glaser and the Moon Kings. Okay. That we have a violin and 2 guitars. We used to have a bass player, but he passed away recently. But so playing retirement homes, though, it's very rewarding because it's actually you give a concert. Mm-hmm. They actually listen.
Sure.
And unlike when you play a bar, you're just kind of background music and people are talking.
Right.
So I have a lot of fun doing that, and I feel it's just genuinely fun to meet old people, talk with them. And now that I'm turned 70, I feel like I'm definitely one of them. But
I wouldn't have known you were 70 unless you told me that.
Well, thanks.
In all honesty, no flattery there. I'm just being honest. But I think it's all relative because I thought 40 was really old until I turned 40.
Yeah, no kidding.
And now I'm like, I can't wait because like when my youngest son is 18, I'm only going to be 50. I never looked at 50 as like the beginning of my life until I was 40.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking forward. I'm like, man, I'm going to be mobile and have some finances under my belt, like to do things, be able to travel, do some things I like to do. And both my kids will be kind of doing their own thing. And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it always used to be a dread moment.
Hey, when the kids get out of the house and they go away to college or whatever, it's you got a new chapter going on. It really is. You can really do some things you want to do again, and like you said, new hobbies. So, but each phase is different. It's now I have grandkids, and that's a great phase too. So it's not bad.
It's the send them home phase. You can cuddle and and hang, and then
give them a bunch of candy, send them home.
I used to do that with my oldest son, like before he'd go back to his mom's after we had separated. I always be like, sugar him up before I drop him off, just to be a jerk. Because I would always get like the tambourines and shit too. Like oh, we got him a drum set and it's coming to your house. Like, why? Why is this? I have far less patience than my son's definitely got a different version of me as like a 20-year-old. There's an 11-year spread. So it's, I remember one time my youngest son was in the back seat and I was getting on to him about something. And he was like, you're being aggressive. You can't talk to me that way. Like, like wherever he got that idea that he could talk to me that way. But my older son turns around and he's like, you have no idea how easy you have it. Like, just be lucky that dad has some patience at this point in his life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you learned.
Yeah. And how quick it goes by too. I think that was my thing, is that gap gave me a good perception of tripping over shoes in the living room became something that I knew I would miss one day rather than an annoyance.
Yeah.
Right. Or like waiting on their beck and call. My sons both have figured me out real quick. When my older son was little, he used to have me pick him up all the time. Up until like 9 or 10 years old, I was still carrying him on my shoulders. And he was like a little spider monkey. Like his feet were down by my waist. Like he was already pretty long to be on my shoulders. But I remember calling his mother once and being like, hey, if you take him to the pediatrician next before I do, make sure you ask him to check out his knees. And she goes, why? And I'm like, he keeps telling me his knees hurt. And I got to carry him everywhere. And she goes, Corey, he walks everywhere with me.
He's bullshitting.
he's never once said anything about his knees. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And then my little one, like, I don't think about it because I kind of created this monster. He moved in with me full time, and I he'll say things, and I just kind of acted like my grandmother used to act, where she was just always just too kind to make you do anything on your own. And so he'd be like, Dad, can I get a drink of water? Like little things like that, right? Obviously, I'm making food and stuff, but he's like, Dad, can I get a drink of water? And I'm looking at this 9-year-old, and it didn't occur to me until like this last year. I get up and I get him a glass of water. I don't ask questions. I don't say, give me a minute. I just do it. And then I'm like, does your mom wait on you hand and foot when you're over at her house?
He's playing you.
He's like, no, absolutely not. He's like, I'm scared to ask mom to do this stuff. I'm like, then what am I doing over here, man? We've come to an agreement about it now. He's so much better now.
Well, my parents were divorced when I was a little kid. When I was seven or eight. And, my dad, we used to go to his house on Sundays. And the same thing. He was always trying to be on best behavior and trying to, be as fun as possible and let us do things that we couldn't do normally. And
ice cream for dinner and stuff.
Yeah. I remember one day we went over there and he had a new place he bought. He had a patio. And he's like, he had cans of spray paint. He said, let's spray paint. I want to spray paint your feet. And I want you to put footprints all over the patio. And his wife, he had remarried by that time. She's like, Ed, you can't do that. And he says, we're doing it. And my sister and I thought that was the coolest thing we ever did.
Yeah.
And that patio, every time we went over there, we were so proud to see our footprints all over this patio.
Yeah.
It was a great idea. But,
that's a core memory kind of thing. That's fun.
but he never would have done that back when he was married.
Were you kind of I don't know. Let me talk about it in myself first, and then because I don't know how to word it. But like when it comes to fun time, I'm fairly juvenile, and people are always like, oh, I've often heard there's an expectation with fathers that there isn't with mothers. And so when you're spending time with your kids, it almost astounds people. And I'm like, what else would I do? Why would I not hang out with these guys? Like, these are my favorite people. And so people often say to me like, oh, you're a great dad. You do so much for the kids. But in actuality, what it is I enjoy these activities as much. Like, I'm looking for a chance. Like, hey guys, I'm sometimes like, you want to have a Nerf war? Like, you want to go outside and play ball and this kind of stuff. So were you that kind of a dad too? Like, you want to, this is fun for me. Like,
oh yeah.
It's not about being a good dad. It's like, this is fun.
I always was on the floor playing with the kids as much as I could.
Yeah.
Looking back on it though, I was working, sometimes I was working 12-hour days, and looking back it's like, man, I shouldn't have worked that hard. But, my career went well. But I remember when I first started hiring younger people, I remember the Gen X generation, and Gen Xers, us baby boomers used to lament like, God, they come to work at 9, they leave at 5.
Yeah.
And like when I was starting out, we came to work at 8 and we left at 8 because we all had to prove something to ourselves and our bosses. And I remember I was like, God damn, I'm going to start leaving at 5 too. What the hell am I doing sitting here?
Yeah.
And so
don't be the patsy for everybody else.
I actually learned something from that generation. I really did. And I started, having more time on my hands. But now that I have grandkids, I had 2 girls, which was fantastic. But I finally got a boy and my grandson. So now, I had a Nerf war with him just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, throwing ball and throwing him on the bed and just, wrestling and, getting rough.
They love it. We need it as boys.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. It's like little baby lions. we gotta grow up to be tough. Do you fish a lot? You a big fisherman? You're on the river?
I fish every once in a while. That, at the Merrimack River where we go, we have a little, we call it a shack out there, but in October we do really well.
Okay.
But the rest of the time, not really. Huh. And I'm one of the worst fishermen you ever want to meet. But I use, artificial lures.
Oh, see, we're a hot dog family. We use hot dogs like religiously. That's
all
we're using.
Where do you fish?
Right here at Walker Lake in Kirkwood by the aquatic center up there. The Kirkwood Aquatic Center.
Yeah, okay.
There's like a skating rink and a little water park right there.
The Kirkwood Park.
Yeah. And that's called Walker Lake.
Okay.
There's that little lake right there. But we're pulling out fish left and right out of there.
Yeah.
It's a catch and release.
When the kids were young, I used to go to Pear Park and do the same thing. And we'd catch.
It's like Ballas and Manchester?
We catch them all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But I go after smallmouth bass. And I just, if I lose 2 or 3 lures, it's a good day. If I lose 5, it's a bad day. But,
yeah. Well, I've snapped off a few hooks over the last week. And I finally got to where now, too, I thought I could use that time to read. So every evening we go for a walk, my youngest son and I. My oldest is at college, so I'll just get that out of the way instead of pretending like I'm isolating this one individual. Like I don't spend time with my older kid. He's away at college, so that's why he's not in some of these stories. But so we'll go up there and we'll do our walk, and then he wants to go fishing. And so the other day I thought I could sit down and read some of this book that I've been trying to read, and man, it's kind of like a bedtime scenario where everything seems calm, and then when it's bedtime, it's like my to-do list is 12 things long. I need a drink. I needed this. I needed that. How kids are. And it's the same when I was trying to read. When I wasn't trying to read, and I was just sitting there fishing on my own, I never was bothered by anything. But it's something about the universe, or maybe I'm projecting it or whatever, but I'm trying to read this book, and I probably started the same paragraph 7 times with, Dad, I'm snagged. Hey, can you help? Can you do this? Can you do that? Dad, look at this. What's going on? I'm like, what is all the, is there I didn't understand why, but the universe makes you kind of pulls you back into that moment and says, hey, be focused on this right now.
Well, that's cool. You take them fishing like that. That's great.
Yeah. We keep rods in the truck.
You ought to come out to the Merrimack sometime. I got canoes out there, and we have a jet boat, and I'm going to put it in the water today, I think. But you just cruise up the river and turn the engine off, just float back and fish. Twilight, it's great. And October is when it really happens because I've had days when.
What is that? Is it like a spawning season, or what? Why do you think October is?
I don't know. It's just I don't know.
I love nature, but I don't know enough about it to know why October might be a better.
Yeah, it's just the water cools down. I guess I don't know much about it either. I really don't. And I catch a fish. I actually caught some fish out in the Yellowstone one time. I didn't have much money. We were living on fish out there for a while because we had to. But I wouldn't even know hardly how to fillet a fish, or eat it. We throw them all back, which is fun. But my neighbors, though, when they catch these catfish, they keep them in a deep freeze, and then at the end of the year, they get them out and have a big
fish fry.
Big fish fry. And man, it's so good.
I did that with we used to have a group that went up to Canada every year, a bunch of fathers and sons. I grew up without my dad, so it was me and my buddy's dad, and they would invite me up, and same thing. We would keep all like the walleye and this different fish. We'd go. I sometimes get them mixed up. We'd go Memorial Day weekend, and then fall, like Labor Day weekend, we'd have this fish fry because they'd freeze them and keep them all, and it was the same kind of thing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and shore lunch every day. So we're literally whatever we're going to eat for lunch that day is what we're catching, and then like canned potatoes, the new potatoes, which is kind of like, and then some onions, and then you're just frying fish, and that's what you eat for like 8 days.
Wow.
The coolest. It's all guys that are up there, like 20 of us, and I remember like the first time I went up there, I was in my early 20s, so I was still pretty like, young man, go-getter kind of guy. When we crossed that border and we got back into the first town, like any woman under like 300 pounds, all the guys' heads were like, what? Because we haven't seen anything but each other for 8 days.
Will you drive in or do you fly into a place?
We drove. Yeah. We had some pretty neat experiences. It's called North Star Lodge. It's on Clay Lake. Yeah. And at the time, too, like I haven't been since the pandemic, so I've not been for like 6 years. But I believe it's the only resort on that lake, and it's pretty cool because my favorite part about it was when you catch a pike in particular. I don't know if you've ever caught pike or if anybody listens ever caught a pike, but they have slime, Like, and you put them in your live well, they'll slime it up, and it's real gross. And so if there weren't keepers, you hit them against the side of the boat and you toss them out from, here 5-6 feet away. Bald eagles will come down and snatch them out of the water.
Wow.
And you're watching this bird with a wingspan that is large, if not larger than your own, come down and get it. And it was just amazing. And you don't see roadkill or like dead fish up there because the natural cycle of things in this area.
Bald eagles are, yeah.
Well, it's in I remember there was a wolf on the side of the road at one time we were coming back because he had an injured leg. So he was just waiting for like something to get hit. Like he knew his place. And then at night we'd take our scraps from the shore lunch and put them on this particular island, and we'd sit at the main cabin and eat dinner, and you'd watch black bears swim over to that island, eating all the fish guts and remains.
Cool.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, we have a bald eagle nest. We've had this cabin for 15 years just up the road, and there's a big bald eagle nest. Now there's 2 of them. In the winter, you can see them better. But
they use the same one over and over, right?
Oh, yeah, it's been there forever.
Yeah.
And it's survived all the, they build them well, but we see bald eagle out there all the time. And you see them.
They're big, right?
Yeah.
The nest, I mean?
They've made a big, the nests are gigantic. Yeah,
sometimes they're like 12 foot in diameter or something I've heard.
Yeah, it's hard to get a perspective because it's a little far off the river, but yeah, it's gigantic. It's probably, third the size of this.
Like you and I could go in there and like have a drink and play cards. It's large. It's a large nest.
You ever see these cams they have that focus on bald eagle nests?
Yep. They do that out in Alton, I think, right? At the bird sanctuary.
Oh, do they?
So there's fixed telescopes, so you can look at them through there. But I believe they've recently put cameras, and I know like the zoo has cameras on some of their animals, which is fun.
Get off subject a little. Have you ever been up to the Audubon Center up towards Alton?
Audubon Center.
You have.
Tell me what it is.
Because
I've done the River Road dozens and dozens of times.
As you're going towards Alton,
uh-huh.
you before you cross the bridge, you take a right and you go down this little.
That's the bird sanctuary.
The bird sanctuary, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's
what I'm talking about with the fixed telescopes, because now they have that really nice. Okay. They never used to have that facility, and now it's like a really state-of-the-art looking facility. You can go in, and they have the fixed telescopes to look at the eagles across the river.
Yeah, but they have.
I just didn't know it's called the Audubon.
Swans migrate there in January. You can go up there and see hundreds of these things, and they weigh 70 pounds apiece.
They're huge.
We're so lucky to have like kind of a major flyway there where it's kind of fun to see. But yeah, it's
I like that stuff. One of my favorite things is there's another close Powder Valley's right here. You ever go walking there, and I remember when my oldest son was young, we had come across. I've always trying to teach my boys walk quiet. Let's look at nature, and we spent about a half an hour watching this little family of skunks. Cool. And there was like these 5 little baby skunks hanging out. And every once in a while, the mom would come out and like check on them, then go back in the den, whatever she was doing in there. I don't know if she was getting dinner ready or what was going on, but these 5 little baby skunks, and we just sat there and watched it. And that's probably one of my, to this day, I remember that as a pretty fond memory of like nature that you don't often get to see. I've seen some more exotic things, but that was a neat experience to be able to sit there and watch and observe.
I bet your son never forgets that too.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure he'll remember.
And we didn't get sprayed. This is too when he was at the age of like, kids don't sit down and do calm things, at like between 7 and 10.
Sure.
So it's rare that they're going to sit down and do this. You ever do road trips with the kids?
Oh yeah. We used to go to Michigan every year and just going back and forth to Cincinnati a lot. And being in the car with the kids is always a lot of fun. You get a real chance to talk about some things you don't normally talk about and get to know them pretty well. But I never forget sitting up in Michigan on a dock looking at the stars, and when the kids were young, they go, "Dad, see that one star next to that other bright star?" Like, oh yeah, there's like billions of them up there. It's a great joke, but
like you're looking at the same one.
Yeah,
it's like, you might, because sometimes there's a little bit of telepathy between the kids. Like I've noticed as my younger son gets older, and especially my older one, we'll sit down and we'll like say the exact same thing at the same cadence at the same time. Like I remember recently we were at Katie's Pizzeria. He'd come home from school before he had to go back up for football. And we were eating, and when the waitress came out and was like, "Oh, what can I get you a drink?" We were both like, "I'll just have a water." But not only did we say, "I'll just have," like verbatim, "I'll just have a water," we pointed at her simultaneously, and we were like, "I'll just have a water." And then we both pointed at each other like that Spider-Man meme, and we're like, "Ha!" We said the same thing at the same time. Like, boom, boom, boom. We said the same thing. It was like it was so weird, but it's also like it was cool and gratifying for me. But I asked about the road trip because I do a father-son trip with the boys every year. This will be the first one I do with my youngest. And my favorite vacation ever in my life was my oldest son and I drove from St. Louis to the Grand Canyon. and we did it. Took 10 days to go there and back, and we chose every little roadside attraction. And I just remember it being a time when
world's largest gopher and things
that
like
kind
that.
of stuff. I'm big on that. There's a whole town. He goes to Ball State now, so there's a whole town. I'm gonna get it wrong. It's like Craigsville, Illinois, or something. We're on your way up to Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's like got 25 or 30 of the world's largest things.
Yeah, I see the signs all the time.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, world's largest rocking chair, mailbox.
Mailbox.
Blah,
you
blah.
you can walk. There's steps to go up into the mailbox. We've got pictures inside the mailbox. It's pretty fun. I like that kind of goofy stuff though. Like my grandfather, and when we'd take road trips, him and I were like the ones that were really into like, okay, I'm okay to like eat weird stuff or do weird things. Like let's have an adventure, like make an adventure of it. So I think that's why I enjoy it with my kids. Is it's nostalgic, but it's also, we're not playing video games or whatever. You know, we're experiencing life.
My kids always give me grief because I love historical markers. I'm like, if somebody's going to take the time to put an historical marker up, God damn it, we're stopping.
Yeah.
To read it. It's like, oh no, there's another one. Dad's going to stop. No, and some of them, some of them are great, but some of them are like, who gives a crap about the guy that did a milk delivery here in 1920? Or something. But
William J. Nobody knows his last name.
But usually, they're pretty good. You find some sites of massacres from Indians, things like that.
The Southwest especially. Like I really enjoyed driving through the Southwest. Not only is it beautiful, but there's a lot of like you were talking about some history that you don't experience here in the Midwest. But
when Nikki first, she was a finalist on Last Comic Standing. She was going to go after she graduated from college. Right after that, she was on national television, and she wanted to move to L.A. So I said, "Hey, I'll drive you out to L.A." And I had a friend of mine who's a songwriter, lives in Venice. And I said, "Hey, I talked to him. I said, hey, I'll pay your rent for a couple of months to let my daughter live in a back room." And so Nikki and I drove her car out to L.A. together and had a road trip. So that was
like 2000 and roundabout.
That was 2005, maybe.
5?
I think 2005.
Holy cow! Was that long ago?
Yeah, 2006 maybe. I can't remember when she graduated from college, but
the last 10 years, I guess, are kind of a blur because that's also, like we talked about, that's why I thought it'd be fun to have you too, is because now as a dad, I was curious, like from the dad's perspective when you're watching that creativity blossom, but the full circle of, I had a show on KFNS at the time, AM radio, and when she was on Last Comic Standing, she was one of the only people that like the comedy world is kind of cutthroat. Like especially locally and in St. Louis. I think St. Louis is a little more, it's so, like I said earlier about segregation, it's so cliquey in St. Louis. And like if you're not part of the group, you're not part of the group. And there was a lot of animosity that I garnered from other comedians because I had a radio show. And they're like, this dude's only out here 2 nights a week. Why does he get a show? And the understanding that they didn't have was I had a show before I did this. Like I did that secondarily. But she used to come on to promote herself for Last Comic Standing. And that was when we were over in Webster Groves. KFNS was in an old bank. And I think we talked about too that I thought it was so funny. And maybe you could talk to where this idea came from, or maybe you gave it to her, who knows. But her business card was her license with like information redacted and added. And I don't know why that stood out in my brain because people weren't doing like weird things with their business cards. There was no digital business cards. There was no metal ones. I've seen things now that look like credit cards or whatever else, but that was pretty innovative.
Yeah, I still have that sitting in my office on the corner of a frame stuck into it on another picture. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did that creativity, do you think, and not that you would want to take credit for anything, but that you don't get that creative and you don't get that much confidence to go be creative unless you have a creative support system. Right? Like,
yeah, she was just.
You guys must have been pretty darn supportive.
Well, we were. I mean, we were real supportive of her being a comedian. I mean, we covered her for a while. Helping out financially after college.
Mm-hmm.
But she helps us out now.
Yeah.
But
it was an investment.
But the first joke she did on Last Comics when she was trying to get through, I was so proud of what happened because she went up and did her thing in front of. I think Gary Marshall was one of the judges and Natasha Legaro, I think, was maybe another judge. And she did her thing.
Well, she was on 2 seasons. I don't know if that was the first or second season.
Yeah, but anyway, they said, hey, you're not ready yet. And she's like, okay. And she started walking off. And she said, can I tell one more? And I said, okay. And she came back on and she did another joke. And they said, okay, we'll pass you through. And it was like, being in sales and marketing, in sales, they always teach you, don't take a first no.
Yeah.
But get 2 or 3 no's before
overcome
you
that
walk
objection.
Away. Make the second effort. And she made the second effort, made all the difference. So that just
super proud moment. Right?
Made me just go crazy. But the joke she told was, being a father, the joke she told was, let's see if I can remember exactly how it went. Oh, I found my dad looking at porn. And I was like, what are you doing with all those naked pictures of me? It was like, just like, so.
Something outrageous to be outrageous.
She threw us under the bus and then she did a joke about my wife. She said, my mom is a shopaholic. She loves to buy alcohol. So when the first time she was on Jay Leno, they sent us packets because she was on, there was, I think Paula Abdul canceled, or maybe Katie Couric canceled. Somebody canceled it. They called her at like 11 a.m. and said, hey, can you make it here by 5 to be on the show?
Yeah.
And she's like, hell yes. So, and then they FedExed out packets for us to sign saying we will not sue NBC or its affiliates for any disparaging comments our daughter makes about us. So
they were covering her liabilities.
Yeah, well, that's covering their liabilities.
Yeah.
And so we just signed them, sent them back. But when she was first coming up, she did a lot of jokes just disparaging us, which was fine. We were.
Well, I think that's something that I learned early on too. Is when I don't know if it's especially when you're a female, but if the comedians in general, we all have something a little bit off. It's therapy for us, but then people do too, right? People, all of us are a little off. But I think there's a little bit of self-deprecation that you kind of have to establish, especially early in your career, because if you're an attractive individual or an attractive female, then people are already under the assumption that you're like, oh, look at me, kind of thing. Right. And so you almost kind of got to like get out in front of that and be like, hey, I'm not here to show off. I'm here because this is what I do and this is my passion. So I think that's probably a necessity for a lot of females to establish that right away because of just the perception and the way people generalize things. It's
I'm always
a societal
amazed.
thing.
I've said tell Nikki this a lot, but her honesty, she doesn't pull any punches. She'll tell the darkest, deepest thing about herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she was coming up, I said, "Man, you're like Howard Stern," because I'm always amazed Howard Stern can be so honest about himself, about his foibles and his flaws and everything. And she was like, "Wow, that's a great compliment." She was actually on Howard Stern and told him that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
You talking about it? Well, that's where the real part comes from, because I think a lot of times we feel isolated just as individuals until we start speaking our truth. And then it's like, oh, man, I'm not alone kind of thing, right? Yeah. Like, especially with the onset of the internet. Like, I bet you there's a lot of groups out there, internet groups of people that are like into obscure things. Not like in a weird way, but like it's like people who collect empty toothpaste containers. Like I bet you if you started a group like that online, you'd find like another 2,000 people worldwide that would be like, oh, I also collect empty toothpaste containers.
It's one benefit, I guess, of that. But then you also have people that have deep, dark, terrible things they do, and they can find their other accomplices online.
Yeah, I get scared. I used to get down these rabbit holes with those like crime documentaries and stuff. And then I'd start suspecting all my neighbors. I'd be like I never used to lock my door in Kirkwood, and then I was like, I'd watched. There was something on about this guy, terrible monster. I don't even describe what he did. His name was like Chris Watts, I think. He was in Denver, and he murdered like his family. And then like there was footage, like what's it called, shoulder cam or body cam footage of like them questioning afterwards, and he was like still out for like 7 or 8 days, and he was like, "Oh, we got to find him." Like it's wild to watch this dynamic of somebody who's seemingly normal but had all these demons inside of him. And I remember thinking to myself, like after watching that, I got really into it, and then I'd go outside, and one of my neighbors who I didn't know that well, I'd be like, "Hey," and then I'm like in my brain like Rolodexing all this information about how like John Wayne Gacy and all these different people, and people would always be like, "Yeah, they were really active in the community, and they were very charismatic, just nice people. You never would have suspected this." And I'm like, man,
my wife
got what in the basement?
Loves to watch those shows, and I'm always like, why do you want to watch these people getting killed? I can't take it.
I don't like it anymore. I don't know what I wonder if I was like dating somebody that was into it. I don't know what the fascination was for a little period of time, but it makes you feel dark. Like I don't like watching this. If I have time to watch television now or anything, I watch like Night Court, like old episodes of Night Court.
Yeah.
Or like Cheers. I once, during the pandemic, I watched Cheers episode 1, season 1, all the way through to the end of Frasier.
It's good pursuit.
Like that's like 26 seasons.
Shows.
26 seasons of television.
I started watching Frasier recently, and it still holds up.
Yeah.
It's toward the later
It's intelligent comedy.
The later seasons, it got a little off, but the earlier stuff, man, the first 4 or 5 seasons, is brilliant comedy, really well written. My favorite show, and people laugh, is Andy Griffith. I love watching Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
You ever watch this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I could still whistle the intro. Like it was because when I was younger, 1st through 3rd grade, I lived in a small town north of Branson, Missouri, and we had like 7 to 11 channels, right? And so that was something that I watched often, was Andy Griffith's show. And then lesser watched, but was a spinoff, was it Gomer Pyle show? No, it was called Colonel.
Yeah, Gomer Pyle, USMC.
USMC. Yeah, he was a Marine, right?
Yeah.
It was like almost like a prequel.
Yeah,
wasn't it meant to be like?
There was an episode where Andy Griffith takes him to
Maybury
to join the Marines.
Okay.
And it's then he all kinds and then it's spun off from there, but it's a takeoff on the movie that made Andy Griffith and Don Knotts famous, was called No Time for Sergeants, and Andy Griffith plays a backwoods kid that gets drafted and knows nothing about anything, and he goes and joins the army, and it was a famous stage play, but Don Knotts plays a psychologist who has to give him an assessment. And it's just one of the greatest scenes in movies. But anyway,
it's funny to think of Don Knotts playing a straight character.
Well, what
straight in the sense of like
well, he's just frustrated because
funny.
He gives him these rings to try to and try to separate mechanically, and Andy Griffith just takes him and just bends him, and Don Knotts like, you can't do that, he's playing Barney. But my uncle was a psychoanalyst out in Los Angeles, and my mom's brother. And he had a lot of clients that were pretty famous, but Don Knotts was one of them. And Don Knotts was a big hypochondriac. Really? And I was always trying to deal with that, I guess. But so I got to meet Don Knotts and hang out with him a few times. And so I loved him before that, but
he's like one of the original like character actors. I mean, he played so many different things with that same personality.
Yeah, well, he got a contract the year I was a little kid. We went out there in '66, and he had just left the Andy Griffith show. He got a contract with Disney, like millions of dollars.
He did some like haunted.
Well, they're called The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
And I saw him film that movie.
Yeah,
but it was famous. But so we were standing there with Don Knotts, on the Universal lot.
Is he a little guy in real life? Was he little?
I guess
because he seemed. But of course, Andy Griffith was probably like 6'2", right? Like Andy Griffith was like my size with some weight.
I was 12 years old, so I forget how tall he was. Taller than me. Mm-hmm. But not tall. But I remember like a Universal Studios tour bus went by, and people were yelling, "Hey, Barney!" And he was waving to them all, and I was standing next to him. I'm like, God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But and then I went out there in my 20s. I went to his house one day and shot pool with him, and he was doing all kinds of Barney stuff, going like, "Watch me make this shot," just doing that kind of stuff. But
so he was kind of like that in real life, or just
no, he was just doing an act for
entertaining.
Us. It was entertaining. But yeah. My Uncle Dick had a lot of famous people. I remember my mom said, I don't know if it's, but Betty Davis put in her will that she wanted to be buried next to him.
Really?
Yeah.
Buried next to your uncle?
Yeah, because he was her psychoanalyst.
Huh. I wonder how much stuff people went through that we don't know about now or think about. Like, there's a shift in movements where right now, like a real hot topic is men's mental health. And that's kind of why I started doing this stuff too, is to find these people's stories and do different things and talk to people. But it was always prevalent. Like there was always people always had issues. I guess that people didn't dig it up or care about one another's issues as much because they weren't as engaged. I don't know.
Psychoanalysis.
It was more personal back then, I guess. Right.
I wish I had a psychoanalyst. It'd be fun just to have somebody to talk to like that. I've never done it. And a lot of people do it that have the money to do it. Like I listen to Howard Stern. He talks.
What might be the difference between that and a regular therapist?
Well, a psychoanalyst, I don't know.
It's a deeper dive, maybe.
Like my Uncle Dick was an MD, so he could actually.
He could prescribe things,
right? So I don't know. I don't really know what the difference is, but
I think that's the only one. Is the MD part?
Yeah,
yeah. Because I think a therapist can't prescribe medicine.
Right.
They can just tell you what's wrong with you and then go tell you to see the person that can prescribe
I want the
medicine.
drugs, damn it.
Yeah. I get nervous. I get nervous about that stuff. I'm always looking for modalities that don't involve a potential addiction.
Yeah, I've never taken anything like that, but
It scares me.
But people that suffer from depression, if you find something that you can take that can handle it, I'm all for it.
Physical activity, I think, is my biggest drug for that stuff.
Yeah,
You seem like a pretty physically active guy. You're
that's
talking
kind
about
of mine too.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling, if I feel tired, rather than take a nap, I usually go out and do something.
Yeah, especially if it's like 2 or 3 p.m. because then I know I'm not going to sleep all the time I want to sleep.
Yeah.
So I get those late afternoon lulls, and I'm like, maybe I'll go. Yeah, same thing. I'll go for a walk, or I tried riding bike. Do you ride bikes at all?
Yeah.
So I recently picked up bike riding. The first week I did it, I could feel pain in my actual hip joints. I don't know because I wasn't used to rotating my legs that way. It wasn't a muscular exhaustion or anything.
How far do you ride?
5 miles.
Yeah, that's about. I have friends that go. Like I had a friend that just turned 70.
I don't get ridiculous with it.
I have a friend that just turned 70. He rode 70 miles on his birthday.
Singularly, one day.
Oh yeah, they do it all the time.
I guess it wouldn't take that long because I'm probably 45 minutes into it, and I'm moderate pace.
I've done a few rides where I do 20, 25 miles, and it's too much.
I get bored.
Yeah, ditto. And
it's like I'm looking at the same damn line in the road or whatever, and I'm like, although I like going out to we talked about the River Road area. I like going out to Pierre Marquette, and then just riding that.
River Road.
There's a good bike lane too.
Yeah.
I don't feel afraid. Sometimes in downtown Kirkwood.
What about mountain biking? Have you tried that?
That's what. You mean I use a mountain bike, but I don't. I'm not going no
on trails. Oh, you should. You'll love it.
I've thought about because I go to Cliff Cave Park a lot to hike.
Yeah,
and they have a pretty cool mountain biking thing.
Yeah, you ever go to Castlewood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go to Castlewood with your bike, and it's very challenging. You'll love it.
I get nervous,
especially in the fall.
I get nervous being close to the sides. We went to back to that Grand Canyon thing. When my son and I went out to Grand Canyon, I remember he was like, "Dad, let's go down this trail," and it was as wide as this. I might be exaggerating because of the way I remember it, but it didn't seem much wider than this desk. And there's people going both ways. And there's not I don't know if anybody's not been to the Grand Canyon. It's not as if there's some kind of guardrail throughout the whole thing or a harness. You're just free falling. And I remember the thing that I shouldn't have done was the first night we got there, we stayed at the Williams, Arizona, the Great Railway Hotel. And it was pretty cool because then you take a 2-hour train ride up to the Grand Canyon and hang out all day and you take a train back and they do a fake train robbery and it was pretty fun. And I asked the woman that was working in the hotel bar because I went down to get something to eat when we pulled in, and I was like, "How many people die at the Grand Canyon?" And she's like, "Oh, probably 10 or 20 a month." I said, "A month?" She's like, "Yeah, on average." I was like, "You never hear about that." And she's like, "You won't." And she's like, "And 90% of the people that die are taking photos, especially in the wintertime. So maybe there's not an average, but." They don't know where the edge is, or you go a little bit too close to the edge. And she's like, well, almost all of it's selfies and
get that good selfie, yeah,
pictures.
But somebody just died last week. They found the guy on a trail, and you hike down to the bottom, and if you don't bring enough water, and with heat now, with heat is a new animal, these days, and people are, it's amazing when it gets to be 120 degree heat index, if you don't have the right amount of water, you're going to die.
Yeah,
I just read a book called. Forget the name of the author, but pretty famous climate scientist type guy. But it's called "Heat Will Kill Us All," and it's with climate change, the heat is going to be the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Humans can't deal with the kind of heat that we're facing.
Well, part of that too, I think, is a natural cycle of things, right? From what I know about science and the history of the world, is that we certainly have contributed. Right? It'd be silly to think not. How could you not? But the Earth goes through cycles, and so there's a natural.
The cycles take millions of years.
Sure, yeah,
and tens of thousands of years.
Yeah,
this is happening, and since the Industrial Revolution.
So we're accelerating it by
since
100%.
Since 1870, we've put billions and billions. I mean, I forget the number is staggering. How many tons of carbon we've put in the air, and that hasn't happened. Maybe it happened. Well, it might have happened during the Earth's formation with volcanoes and everything back long ago,
or the end of the Cretaceous period, one of the periods that was the last plant life because there was such an abundance of plants, and then when that died out, the oxygen level basically was dissipated during the Ice Age, right? As this sound familiar at all?
Yeah, but
And so that was the cold shift, though. So you're saying, like, yeah, with this hot shift, that's something that we haven't really experienced.
well, when I retired, I've been big on climate change. It just drives me crazy when people deny that it's happening. So I went and volunteered to get trained by Climate Reality Project, which is Al Gore's group.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew to Minneapolis and spent 3 days. 1,000 people were there to training, and Al Gore was there himself, and they trained us on how to go out and give presentations to talk about climate change. And so I came back, and I was really invigorated about the whole thing, and I would go out and give presentations about climate change. And I have access to all Al Gore's materials that really update.
So it's like real-time data.
And if I gave you this presentation, like during the pandemic, I did a few on Zoom. Pre-pandemic, I was doing it quite a bit, and then pandemic came along, and I really, since then, I've kind of fallen off. I haven't done it as much. But if I gave you this presentation, I'd
be afraid.
I could get you almost in tears, probably.
Yeah.
If people would be like, I'd always say, like, just bear with me. There's the good part coming. And they're like, people are like, when's the good part coming?
The good part is that this may not happen until after we're dead.
Well, the good part is there's hope if people would, just
change things around,
pay attention to things, and so we are making some progress. But
there was a big push for that in the 80s too, because I remember there was a competition that I still have the poster of, and it was about climate change. I was in 4th grade, and the poster, I won some award. Like, my poster got chosen to be like a printed poster within the school, and it's funny that, like, that's probably still one of my greatest accolades, is like things I did in grade school. But it was a bulldozer, and it was rolling up dirt in the rainforest, and there was like animals trapped within that roll up, and then the other side of it was like a decimated forest. And my inspiration was 2 things: the Ferngully movie. You remember Ferngully?
Mm-mm.
It probably came out like you would have taken Nikki to see this in theaters. Ferngully.
Name sounds vaguely familiar.
It was about this little fairy, this guy who was part of a lumberjack crew or whatever in the rainforest, and he got shrunk down, and then he lived with all these fairies, and they were showing him like what he was actually doing to the rainforest. So that was part of my inspiration. And the other one was the Earth Song by Michael Jackson, where he sings about, and he's like standing in this decimated rainforest area because they're clear cutting all these trees, and he's like doing his Michael Jackson thing with his like shirt open. And he's like,
yeah, I kind of remember that. Yeah, rainforest is a big thing in the early 90s.
It was right around Free Willy time too. Free Willy was big on that kind of stuff.
But yeah, the climate change is a scary thing. But the song I wrote is called "No Denying," and it talks about all the terrible things that are going to happen. And whenever I play it, it's depressing. But the last verse is I try to make it seem like hey, there's
hope.
There's a way we can fix this.
So there's an uptick to that song.
But now we've come so far that it's not going to the carbon's in the air, and there's not much you can do about it. The temperature's going to rise, probably 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 50 years, and that's enough to change a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, not to end on a depressing note, but
well, here's the bright side. I would look at that to be a bit humorous about it, and not to make light of it, but to say that if I can get Arizona weather with Missouri pricing of living, maybe that's a good thing.
It'll come at a cost, though.
Yeah.
Since we have this river cabin, we have climate change rain now. They're called rain bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happened on the news any week, you'll find these floods that have never happened in recorded history in these areas. It rains 9 inches in 2 hours.
So that's not just melting of ice caps. It's coming from these rain bombs.
Yeah, and there's a video in my presentation that shows Phoenix from a distance, and a rain bomb happens, and you see the rain. It's like somebody taking a bucket of water and just going, bam, and just throwing it on the floor. The rain actually bounces like 6 feet high because it hits so hard.
Really?
And in my lifetime, I've noticed rain that I've never experienced before in the last 5-6 years,
mm-hmm.
where it comes down so hard. And since we had this cabin, they've been keeping records 134 years on the Merrimack River. It flooded in 82. But since we've had the cabin, it flooded twice, up 35 feet up to the rooftop of this place. And the last time it flooded, April of 2017, they had 9 inches of rain in Rolla in 2 hours. And when that happens, all bets are off. Just no systems can handle that. It's not, sewage systems aren't designed to do it, and rivers geologically aren't prepared to do it.
Well,
So
and like the snow they got in Texas, like 2 or 3 years ago, and like just like decimated the mobility of everybody because they
freezing
weren't
they had. And
ready for that.
And people say, well, it's freezing in Texas. Well, yeah, that's climate change. That's why.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's not global warming. It's climate change. It's just
Right.
things are changing. Like in Houston, they're saying Houston, people are moving out in droves. It might be uninhabitable because of the big rains, the heat and the rain. Yeah, they had 40 inches of rain in 24 hours a few years ago, and everything flooded. It's the biggest rain recorded in the history of man.
Is it Rio? Is that the river it goes by there? Rio Grande.
Well,
That's the longest parallel river in the United States, right?
I don't know.
Longest east to west river, or west to east river in the United States is the Rio Grande, I believe, because it separates the border.
Could be, but it wasn't a river that flooded. It was just rain. It's just when you get 40 inches of rain in 26 hours or whatever it was.
But Houston's near the Gulf of Mexico too, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of water activity around there.
Yeah,
so like
slow lying. So
yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for a climate change. We'll look at that. You'll have to send me. We'll add a link to that song on this.
I was singing the last verse of my song. It's like, so if climate change is happening, it's like, get it through your big thick head. It's not too late to change our act. The first step is accept the fact it's going to fuck us. So raise a ruckus right now, dude.
It's pretty poignant.
Thank you.
You'll have to send that. We'll put a link on there. EJ, thank you so very much for
my pleasure.
Coming and hanging out. And I look forward to we're going to be hanging out next week too, playing some music, right?
Yeah, love to.
Good deal. All right, buddy.
Thanks, Corey. Good to see you.